Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're ready to lose some sleep tonight because the story I'm about to tell you, it's not mine. It belongs to a man named Daniel Harper, an ordinary guy who thought he knew what it meant to be alone, until one night, when he realized he wasn't. This isn't a story about monsters under the bed or ghosts in the attic. No, this is something colder. Something that lingers in the corners of your home when the lights go out. So, grab a blanket, dim the lights, and let's step into Daniel's world. A world where being home alone doesn't mean you're actually alone. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell if you're brave enough to hear more stories like this. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for what's coming. Now, let's get started. Daniel Harper was 32, a graphic designer who worked from home in a small, two-bedroom house on the outskirts of a quiet town in Maine. It was the kind of place where the nearest neighbor was a half-mile away, and the only sounds at night were the crickets and the occasional creak of the old oak tree in the yard. Daniel liked it that way. Solitude was his sanctuary. Or so he thought. It was a Thursday night in late October, the air crisp with the promise of winter. Daniel's girlfriend, Mia, was away for the weekend, visiting family. He had the house to himself, which wasn't unusual. He'd spent the evening working late on a project. The glow of his computer screen the only light in the house. By 11 p.m., he was exhausted. He shut down his laptop, locked the doors, and headed upstairs to bed. The house was quiet. Too quiet, maybe, but Daniel didn't notice. Not yet. As he climbed the stairs, the wooden steps creaked under his weight. Normal, right? Old houses make noises. But when he reached the top, he stopped. There was a sound, a faint thump, coming from the guest bedroom at the end of the hall. It wasn't loud, just deliberate, like something heavy had shifted. Daniel froze, his hand on the banister, listening. Silence. He told himself it was nothing. Maybe a book had fallen off the shelf. Yeah, that had to be it. But Daniel wasn't the kind of guy to leave things to chance. He grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen, his phone was charging, and crept back upstairs. The guest bedroom door was closed just as he'd left it. He stood there for a moment, the flashlight beam trembling slightly in his hand. He didn't want to open the door, but he couldn't not open it, you know? That nagging feeling in your gut that says, you need to know. So, he turned the knob and pushed the door open. The room was empty. The bed was silent, the curtains drawn. Nothing seemed out of place, but the air, it felt wrong. Heavy, like someone had just left the room seconds before he walked in. He swept the flashlight across the walls, the beam catching the edges of the furniture. And then he saw it. A faint smudge on the mirror above the dresser. It looked like a handprint, but not quite. The fingers were too long, too thin. He stepped closer, his breath catching in his throat. He hadn't touched that mirror in months. Nobody had. Daniel tried to rationalize it. Maybe Mia had cleaned the mirror before she left. Maybe it was just dust. But deep down, he knew better. He backed out of the room, closing the door behind him, and went to bed, telling himself he was just tired, overworked, seeing things. But as he lay in the dark, the house didn't feel like his anymore. It felt watched. He didn't sleep much that night. Every creak, every rustle outside the window made his heart race. Around 2 a.m., he heard it again, that same thump from the guest bedroom. This time, it was followed by something worse. A low, rhythmic tapping, like fingernails on wood. Tap, tap, tap. It wasn't coming from the guest bedroom anymore. It was closer, much closer. Daniel sat up in bed, his eyes wide, staring into the darkness of his own room. The tapping stopped, but now he could hear something else. A faint, rasping sound, like someone breathing just outside his door. He didn't move, didn't dare. He just sat there, clutching the blanket, waiting for the sound to stop. Minutes passed, maybe 5, maybe 10. The breathing faded, and the house was silent again. Daniel didn't sleep for the rest of the night. He kept his eyes on the door, waiting for it to creak open, but it never did. The next morning, Daniel checked the house top to bottom. No signs of a break-in, no footprints, no open windows. But when he went back to the guest bedroom, the handprint on the mirror was gone. In its place was something new. A single word scratched into the glass. Stay. Just that one word, carved with something sharp enough to etch the surface. Daniel's stomach dropped. He hadn't heard anyone in the house. He hadn't seen anyone. But someone, or something, had been there. That night, Daniel didn't stay. He grabbed his keys, his phone, and drove to a motel an hour away. He didn't care that it was 3 a.m., or that he had deadlines looming. He just needed to get out. But even in the motel, with its sterile walls and buzzing fluorescent lights, he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. The air felt heavy again, like it had in the guest bedroom. And when he looked in the bathroom mirror, there it was again. That same not quite human handprint pressed against the glass from the inside. Daniel moved out of that house a week later. He never went back, not even to collect his things. He hired a moving company and told them to burn anything they didn't want to touch. The last I heard, the house was still on the market. No one's lived there since. And Daniel, he doesn't talk about that night anymore. But he keeps every light on when he's home alone. And he never, ever looks in a mirror after midnight. That's Daniel's story. Or at least what he could bring himself to tell. What do you think was in that house? A ghost? Something darker? Or maybe it was all in his mind. But those scratches in the mirror? They were real. Too real. I'll let you decide what to believe. If this story gave you chills, hit that thumbs up button and drop a comment below. Have you ever felt like you weren't alone in your own home? Better yet, if you've got a creepy story of your own, something that still makes your skin crawl, send it to the email in the description. I'm always looking for true tales to share, and who knows? Maybe I'll tell your story in a future video. Just make sure you're ready to relive it. While you're down there, hit subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss the next story that'll keep you up at night. Until then, Maybe double-check your mirrors before bed. You never know what might be looking back. Sweet dreams.